What's up, everyone? I'm Valeria Cámara. This is Cinthia, and this is Rosanna.
Hi.
So, we're going to talk to you guys today about the Renaissance theater. Some of the themes here are act and scene divisions, props and effects, and private halls and indoor theaters. So, the first one is act and scene divisions. Now, this is made of two things. One is the act, and two is the scene division. So, while these two things are the things that make a play, there are two different things. An act is defined by elements such as the rise in action, the climax, and the resolution. And the scenes are actually actions happening in one place at one time. What does this mean? This is where all the dialogues are going on, the characters. This is where a scene, a curtain, closes and opens. And every time that this happens, it means that it's a new scene. So every time that this happens, we're going to have a different setting, different characters, different dialogues, and a different atmosphere. Next, please. In the process, a lot of editors have changed a lot of things. And one of those could be that they change, as you can see in the first picture, they changed the old platform stage to what joined the next picture over here is modern picture frame stage. Now, this came with a lot of changes. It's very obvious that these are two very different stages. So plays had to adapt to these kind of things. And one of the plays that was most affected and damaged by this was the play of, could you please change it? Of Antony and Cleopatra by William Shakespeare. Now, this play went through so much. It was republished 100 years after Shakespeare's death. And first, they took out the scene divisions. Now, can we imagine just how bad that is? People might think that this is a good idea, but it's not. Why? There is no actual, we don't know when something starts or ends. So then it was republished and republished and republished throughout many years. And at some point, they cut it into, as you can see here, by some editors 27 times, which means it's 27 different scenes. And then it was cut into another 44. While this might seem like a good idea, it's not. Could you imagine how the readers must feel? As you can see right here, just put yourself in that spot. You have to read and imagine 44 different scenes, characters, atmospheres, dialogue. It's a lot, and it's actually very tiresome. So this was not a very wise decision. I don't know what you guys think, but so next one, please. So there was a man called Gerald Bentley, and he said, theirs was a drama of persons, not a drama of places. What do you guys think he meant with that? Thank you.
Now we go to props and effects. As you know, when in theater, we need a lot of props and stuff to make the public feel involved and feel like it's real, you know? So many people say that a characteristic of the Renaissance theater was the bareness. They were simple and not really beautiful, you know? But on the contrary, they would have a lot of beautiful tapestries and hangings that would be embroidered or painted in the back of the theater and in the scenery. And they could be as simple as just some flowers or as intricate as, I don't know, people around. So as you can see right there, they were beautiful and you can really feel a sense of what a theater was in those times. So there was a manager producer named Philip Henslow. He was a really important man. As we can see, and I quote, he was an honored member of his community, a church warden, groom of the chamber of the Queen Elizabeth, gentleman's steward of the chambers of James I, master of the royal game, theater builder, landlord, merchant, manufacturer of starch, and a banker for the admiral's men and other accounting companies of this time. So he was a really important man. And he was really elaborate with the costumes of the people, of the characters. He says that he once spent 20 pounds in one cloak, and as you can see right here, thanks to an archive and in the internet, I found that in 2017 it was worth 12,000 pounds, which is roughly around $15,000 right now. And in those times, he could have bought 23 horses, 44 cows, or paid almost 2,000 days of wages. So it was a lot of money for just one costume. So in the next video, you're gonna see a Lady McGuire talk about the differences between the 21st century theater and the Renaissance theater.
One of the most important differences is that in Renaissance theater, there were no female actors or actresses, okay? All of the female parts were played by men, okay? It was inappropriate to have women in the theater back in that day. We had Romeo and Juliet, which would of course be one of the most famous Renaissance plays. Shakespeare was the most famous playwright back then. You would have Romeo, of course, played by a man, and then you would have Juliet, also played by a man. Now, the man that would play Juliet would be a man that was maybe a little more feminine in nature, maybe a man that was a little bit more frail in frame and body type, and maybe that could really emulate that higher pitch voice, you know, oh, Romeo, Romeo, so it was sort of strange in that sense.
So as you heard, male characters were the only ones that could participate in the plays. So they needed a lot of makeup to make them seem more female. So the bad news is that the makeup was lead-based, so really toxic for a human being. As you can see in the pictures right now, they were really beautiful costumes that they used, and the main fabrics were satin, calico, and cotton, and they were layered dresses, so they were made specifically for every character. So if a man was playing a female, they would do the costume specifically for him. So the main things that they used and as props were chariots, fountains, dragons, beds, tents, thrones, booths, wayside crosses. So that's a list. But the thing that it was the props were really heavy in those times, so they couldn't move them. Nowadays we have a lot of other mechanisms to move things around the theater, you know, but in those days all the characters had to play around those things and make as they didn't exist for that time. So one of the favorites for the public was the processions. They used the processions as religious, royal, or military for every, and they would play in every theater, in every play. If, for example, a lot of the characters had to be changed and had a different makeup and different wigs and stuff, the processions would double in people. So they would have more time to change into another costume and another dress, or, you know, how dresses had to, a lot of layers and a lot of things like a corset, and, you know, so they would double in people if there was a lot of people that had to change in that time. So, you know, if you were a person that was spending a lot of money in going to a theater, you would have to get your money's worth. So pageantries was one of the main things that they had, and music was really important in theater. They had a vocal and instrumental music, and, you know, the pageantries were worth the money for the people, and they had to, in order to keep people coming. The wages for the characters were not really high, especially for the male people that were playing female characters. They would get paid at around 2 shillings per day, so it was almost close to nothing. To Cinthia so she can talk to you about it.
Hey guys, now I'm gonna talk about private house and indoor theaters. I would like to ask the audience if you guys have ever wondered how were the theaters during the Renaissance era. Well, during this section, we're gonna talk about the different kind of theaters, their descriptions, and we're gonna show you some pictures pictures so you can have a better insight. The Renaissance dramatists had to keep in mind the private halls and the indoor theaters took pride their place. In addition to the private halls and indoor theaters, we have the Great Hall and the manor houses. The Great Hall was a social administrative hub. This one evolved to be a place where people could have banquets, courts, and presentations of plays. This could be an equivalent of the Italian Renaissance studiolo, or a modern English studio, which works as a form of theater. Then we have the manor houses, which is almost like the Great Hall. Can you get the can you go to the next picture, please? This is the manor house, and it's almost like a medieval castle, but these were in the countryside. And they also had a great hall, and it was used as a great hall. It had the same purpose, which was for banquets, courts, and presentation of plays. Then acting companies performed in indoor theaters, but also in glove theaters. These were partly roofed. Can you go to the next one? And they had 3 galleries with balconies. Next one, please. Each gallery had 3 wooden benches, and they had a capacity for more than 1,500 people. As you can see here, there are the wooden benches and the galleries. Then go to the next one, please. The theaters in London were many of the places where Shakespeare's plays were played, and actually Shakespeare himself acted in some of the plays. Sadly, it was a fire burned it, but then it was reconstructed after he died. Then we have booth stages. Can we go to the next one? These were usually used in great halls. These were temporary stages. They were really easy to accommodate. The only thing that they could not have were overhanging things. For example, if they had a scene in heaven, they couldn't have like the things to decorate, because it was a very simple stage. Then something like this was used in private theaters, like in the Blackfriars, which was acquired in 1608 by Kingsman, which was the theater company of Shakespeare. Only feature that we know about the Blackfriars stage is that it was completely roofed, unlike the Glove Theater. And the advantage of the Blackfriar, it was that it had artificial lighting, which helped them they had the opportunity to present their plays the whole year, so they didn't have a problem. This was very beneficial because they increased their profits. So a lot of shareholders got a lot of money. Among them was Shakespeare. So now we're gonna go with some conclusions. And we have Valeria.
So guys, let's remember, act defined by some elements, and the scene, it's actions happening at one place at one time. Rosanna?
Okay, guys, remember that lead is bad for you. Don't use makeup with lead. The props and effects were really rudimentary, but they were really beautiful and they were really intricate. So remember that was one of the most important things besides the characters and the acting, was the props and the effects. Cinthia?
And in what it comes to theaters, we can see how it evolved in the Renaissance era. It was practically revolutionary. They went from doing the plays in great halls and manor houses to having an actual, like a good stage. For example, the Glove Theater, it was revolutionary for them. They had the benches, they had the galleries, they had an entrance to the stage. So we can see how just in the Renaissance era, how theater evolved.
Okay, guys, thank you very much for your attention.
Thank
We
you
hope
so
that you
much.
liked it and that you found something interesting in this. So thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, guys.